Have you ever heard the legend of the black-eyed children? Now, I'm sure a lot of you probably have, since this has been my most highly requested video. I myself had never actually looked into the black-eyed children, but just for you guys, we're going to take a deep dive into this peculiar occurrence. Just what are the black-eyed children? Well, the black-eyed children, also known as the black-eyed kids, are beings that appear to people, and they look to be between the ages of 6 to 16 years of age. They will appear in groups of 2 or more, alone in parking lots, parks, sometimes knocking on the door of your house or standing alone on a sidewalk. And then they will approach you and start asking for favors. The favors could be anything from asking to get a ride home, or to use your phone, or to come in and get something to eat, or to use your bathroom. The few people that have had encounters with these black-eyed children say that while speaking to them, they experienced unexplainable bouts of fear, yet they felt compelled to give in to them, almost as if they were being mind-controlled. But the moment that you catch yourself from giving in to them, they'll reveal their black eyes. And that's when they say things become very peculiar and at times dangerous. There are many theories on what they could be, from just plain people to vampires, to extraterrestrials, ghosts, and even demons. Just to name a few. A lot of people believe this to be just one big hoax. Wikipedia and Snopes both say that it was a hoax created in 1998 by a Texas reporter named Brian Bethel for his ghost-related mailing list. But what was Brian's story? Brian steadfast to his story being very real, that he actually experienced his encounter, wrote it down, and sent it out to everyone on his mailing list. According to Brian, it was around 9:30 p.m. on January 16th, 1998. And Brian had just left his apartment in Abilene, Texas, to go down to the drop box to pay his internet bill. And on the way down there, he had stopped by the Dollar Theater to use the lights of the marquee in order to write out the check. And as he did, there was a knock on his window, and when he looked over, he saw 2 young boys. He placed their ages around 10 to 14 years of age, and this is how he described them. Boy number 1 was slightly taller than his companion, wearing a pull-over hoodie with a sort of gray checker pattern, and jeans. He was unable to see his shoes because he was still within his car. His skin was an olive color and had medium curly brown hair, and he gave off an air of quiet confidence. Boy number 2 had pale skin with a trace of freckles. His primary characteristic seemed to be looking around nervously. He was dressed very much like his companion, only his pullover hoodie was a light green color, and his hair color was a sort of pale orange. By looks, they didn't seem to be closely related. Almost immediately, he knew that something was up, and he felt a streak of fear hit him. The first boy told him that they wanted to see the new Mortal Kombat movie, but that they had left their money at home. And instead of asking him for the money, they asked him if he could give them a ride to their house. Brian became very nervous and anxious as the boys started to try to coax him into it, saying things like,
come on, mister. Go to our house.
And
we're just two little boys.
And
come on, mister. Just let us in. We can't get in until you do. You know, just let us in and we'll be gone before you know it. Yeah, we'll go to our mother's house.
Brian Bethel ended up finding himself subconsciously unlocking the door, as if being mind-controlled by the children to do so. Then suddenly, he realized what he was doing and caught himself, sort of came back to reality, and looked up at the boys and realized their eyes were pitch solid black. No irises, no pupils, no nothing. According to Brian, the second boy continued to stand there silently while the first boy sort of threatened him, saying,
come on, man, just let us in. We're not gonna hurt you. It's not like we have guns or anything.
And in the way that he had said it, it was like he was implying that they didn't need guns to hurt him. And then the boy started pulling at his door, demanding to be let in. And Brian mustered up some courage, threw his car into reverse, and sped home. Okay, now let's jump to November 14th, 1998, where Brian sends out a mass email to all of his followers claiming that he had had a conversation with a close internet friend. One in which his internet friend said that he had had a similar encounter. He even sent copies of the conversation within this email after recanting his own original stories for those who may have missed it or may have forgotten the details. And I will link to a copy of this email down in my description below. His friend's name was John. He was an investigator for Spirit, a pagan rites coordinator in his home state of Oregon. John started the conversation asking people in the chat if they have ever heard of kids with funny looking eyes, that he had encountered some kids with black eyes. Intrigued, Brian asked John to continue with his story. John tells a story about how he had went to a seminar in Portland, and when he was leaving and going to get into his car, his friend Doug came over to him and asked him if he could drive him around the block. That there were 3 sinister looking kids standing around his own car between the ages of 10 and 16. That they looked goth, and that there was 2 boys. The youngest was a boy and the oldest was a boy. And then there was a girl that was leaning on his car and smoking a cigarette. So John told him to get on in, and as they drove past Doug's car, something in John made him slow down and take a look. The oldest boy was on Doug's side, the youngest boy was on John's side, and the girl stayed leaning against the car, smoking her cigarette. He made sure his doors were locked with electrical locks and rolled down his window and asked the kids what they were doing standing around Doug's car. The youngest said,
"It's scary out there all alone. We just want to ride home."
And then the oldest looked at Doug and said,
"Yeah, you promised you would help us."
Which is when Doug replied,
"I don't even know you."
Then all of a sudden, Doug said,
"I'm getting out of the car.
And when that happened, it was like their faces just shifted and remoted. They suddenly looked a lot older, and their eyes were black. This scared John so much that he threw his car into reverse and backed up, turned around in a circle, and took off down towards the way out of the garage. When he made it down there, one of the boys was already down there, somehow beaten him down the steps, and made it there before he did. He came for the car door, and John just felt this overwhelming feeling of dread, like if he made it to that car door, something bad was going to happen. So he took off out of there. They started to drive around the block for 10-15 minutes, and Doug was almost passed out. He ended up telling John that he had met the younger boy earlier that day, even given him a ride up to the seminar. The boy had asked him for a ride home, but he had to go to the seminar first. He had told the young boy to wait there for him and he would give him a ride home afterwards. He had never met the other two, and when he came back and seen the older ones, he didn't trust it, and all bets were off. And that's when he went and he got John. After circling the block, John took Doug back to his car, and the kids were all gone. Doug got into his car and started to head out. Well, Doug and John were going in the same direction, and John was about 45 feet behind Doug when Doug tried to go through a yellow light at an intersection, but misjudged the light and ended up getting T-boned by a truck and killed instantly. John reported that he ended up having to talk to the police and make a report on Doug's behalf through all of this. I found that one creepy. True or not, I found that one creepy. Like I said, I've never looked into this, so I found that one creepy. Anyhow, those are the first two known accounts to ever be on the internet. And to this day, Brian still says that this is true, and that even at times he'll run into people and talk to them on the internet or such, and they'll ask him if he's ever heard of that guy who's seen the black-eyed children. He's like, yeah, that's me. And it seems like they sort of make fun of him, but to him it's a very, very real, peculiar occurrence. He says at times it even makes him feel insane. But the story really ended up blowing up in February 2013 when a 2-minute video from Weekly Strange ended up on the entertainment page of MSN's website. Oddly enough, shortly before a movie about it came out. Yet, there's actually a much, much older account of the black-eyed children. One that stretches back long before the invention of the internet or modern technology. There's a book called Your Haunted Lives, The Black-Eyed Kids. And this book claims that there's a really old Native American legend. And hopefully I'm saying this right, it's Otkon, that these children might be an Otakon. Some Native Americans, they believe in a dark power called the Otakon that could take over children, and an evil one that would mate with females in order to produce black-eyed children, and that these children would have black eyes and really chalky, pale skin. These children would be killed by the tribe as soon as they were born, and also burned to keep them from resurrecting. Children wandering in the woods could also be taken over by the Otakon, and that they would emerge with black eyes and pale skin, and they would act nervous and be repeating themselves over and over, and their goal was to destroy the tribe and to infect all people with the Otakon. there being some old mystic Native American legend really makes this even more creepy and even more peculiar in my eyes. But I want to know what you think about this peculiar occurrence down below. Have you ever heard of the black-eyed children? Have you ever experienced seeing a black-eyed child? Let me know down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like this video and share it out with all of your peculiar friends. And if you're new here, pound that subscribe button. Go ahead, do it. We'd love to have you be one of our peculiar squad. And don't forget to hit that bell button on all notifications so that YouTube will actually show you that I've uploaded. And until next time, keep your eyes peeled for all things peculiar. Do 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 do. Okay, I never heard of the black-eyed children, but I'm kind of really creeped out, and it's like 4 in the morning, and I'm by myself, and that's not cool. I hope nothing comes tapping on my windows and doors.